Weather impact alert through parts of Northern California. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods looking at extreme heat, fire danger, plus some cool savings as we head into this stretch of 100s and upper 90s throughout the valley. Taking a look at those weather impact alert headlines, we'll start it off with the timing when Friday, Saturday and Sunday. The impact being heat and poor air quality. Spare the air day in effect heading into the weekend as well. Need to seek shade and hydration and get access to cooling. We'll talk more about all of this as we unpack all of the weather elements. We'll start off with the air quality. Yes, this is the view as we look into the valley, just a smoky scene. This is from Sutter Buttes looking down into the valley where you can barely make out the landscape there. This is how thick the smoke is in parts of the region. I want to show you our visible satellite imagery. As you can see, just a thin layer of smoke penetrating from the northern part of the valley straight down through the Central Valley. It's a little hard to make out, but you can kind of see just that trickle of that flow right through the Central Valley. So the fire is actually not burning in our region. It's well north of us, but with the transport of those north winds, it does move it in through the valley where it just sits in this bowl, kind of surrounded by two mountain ranges, and it's really tough to scour out. Air quality into our Saturday, unhealthy for sensitive groups. Again, that thin smoke layer plus ozone building, and that's going to put us at that threshold for the second day in a row. So it's not only the heat, but also the poor air. How does the ozone contribute to part of this? Well, we get access to sunlight and plus the heat. And what we look at is volatile organic compounds. Those are emissions from vehicle exhaust, industrial facilities, gasoline vapors, and chemical solvents, and that equals ozone. So it's a combination of the two. What we can do to prevent some of that ozone from building is obviously use our cars a little bit less, carpool, public transportation. And another key element here, and this is one that you perhaps can try to do, is fill up your car after sunset. And that's because it does give off some of those organic compounds when we fill up our cars. So if you can do all of that, may help to alleviate some of the air quality concerns. What we can't control, though, is the fires that are burning north of the Sacramento region. You can see they're mainly up towards the California-Oregon border, and with those north winds, it does carry some of that in through the valley. But what we have is a little change in our wind. It's not for all of us, but there is a little bit of an onshore flow developing tomorrow into our Saturday that'll be right along that I-80 line. This is going to bring down the smoke a little bit, but also bring down the temperatures. But you can see the heat alerts up from the northern part of the state all the way deep into the Central Valley, where we have a heat advisory in place for the North Valley of the Sacramento region, and then also just south of Modesto through parts of the San Joaquin Valley. That's going to extend into our Sunday and even now into our Monday forecast. So we're going to continue to monitor this over the weekend and into early next weekend as well, with heat illnesses very likely if you spend a whole lot of time outdoors. We'll keep these extended forecasts going on ABC 10 Plus. Make sure you download it for free wherever you stream for free on TV. We not only have these forecasts, but also weather explainers and our weather and climate specials. So a lot of content to watch there. Tracking the heat, well, it's all because of this ridge of high pressure that's sinking and warming air. And again, we have just a little bit of an onshore flow for our Saturday forecast as this high just kind of migrates across the Pacific. Once we get into Sunday, it does make a little bit of a push inland. That's going to bring our temperatures up slightly into our Sunday forecast for some of us. So we're kind of bouncing around here between the upper 90s and low 100s. The California State Fair is going on. For the weekend outlook, this is the first weekend of the state fair. Highs are going to stay in the upper 90s. Now, that being for Sacramento with southwest winds at about 10 to 20 miles per hour. But we also have the Stanislaus County Fair going on in Turlock. And you can see the farther we get from that Delta breeze, the warmer the temperatures are. So the temperatures will hover in the low 100s for a couple of days here with those northwest winds all the way into Monday. So again, we'll call for that weather impact alert in place through Monday for heat in parts of the valley. Otherwise, it's going to be for the poor air quality. July has been hit or miss in terms of our above and below average temperatures. Over the holiday weekend, last weekend was the 4th of July. We saw very favorable conditions, warmed up a bit on Sunday, and then we brought those temperatures right back down again. Now we're on the upside of things heading into this weekend with highs in the upper 90s and low 100s. Drastically different from last year, though, at this time. We were tracking a big stretch of 100-plus degree heat. We were in the throes of it, really. We had 16 days of 100-plus degree heat in July. We had 31 for the entire year. We're only running about 3 to 4. We'll probably end up with about 4 or 5 by the time this stretch is over into the weekend for the Sacramento area. And we saw those 100s deep into the year as well. We saw 5 in October. We were kind of pushing, even meeting the latest date on record of seeing 100-plus degree heat. So this year's been a little bit different. Yes, we're going to have to deal with some of the heat come this weekend. We've been on the upward swing of things. Wednesday, 92, Thursday, 99, average is 93. This is our hottest and driest month of the year. So some signs of heat stress: heat exhaustion, thirsty, dizzy, nausea, cool, clammy skin, and sweating a lot. But when it bumps up another degree to heat stroke, the person may be complaining of a headache, red, hot, dry skin, and no sweating. Either way, seek medical assistance immediately when somebody is in those signs of distress there from heat. Some cool savings. Okay, we're going to have to deal with it. Might as well not have to pay the price for it. Only use fans when in a room. They cool people, not rooms. Set the air conditioning, if you can tolerate it, to 78 degrees. Also close drapes and blinds during the afternoon. Want to open up those windows during the morning when we see the coolest temperatures, but then close the windows, the drapes, the blinds to just prevent that sunlight from heating up the house. Plus, don't use big appliances in the evening. It'll heat up the house, and you'll also pay a little bit more as well. So surviving the valley heat. Timing matters. It's coolest at sunrise, but for the valley, it's hottest between 1 and 9 p.m. with that peak heat typically between 4 and 6 o'clock. So you want to make sure you get out in those outdoor activities early in the day. Shade and hydrate. Take breaks every half hour. Hydrate and get into the shade if you have to be outdoors. And keep a check on others, particularly children, elderly, and pets. Our pets still need to get outside, but when is it too hot to trot? Well, you can see how quickly that concrete heats up. Even with an air temperature of 95 degrees, the concrete can reach 145 degrees. So a good rule of thumb is the 5-second rule. Place the back of your hand on the blacktop or concrete. If it's too hot for you, it's too hot for your pets. So try to get out in the morning, or maybe just go to a dog park where there's grass. That can certainly help. Okay, preventing a spark. We know it's going to be hot. It's dry. It's been several months since we've had wetting rain. So keep vehicles off of dry grass. Watch for dragging vehicle parts. Mow lawns, not drag grass or weeds, and properly dispose of cigarettes and matches. We're just in the middle of this part of the year where it always is going to be high fire danger. Campfire safety as well. This is a big time of year to do some camping. Check burn restrictions. Choose places away from brush to use any allowed campfire. Keep flammable items far from fire. Never leave it unattended, and extinguish properly, and keep water nearby just in case there's a spark that tends to go out. So how many days has it been since we've seen rain over 1/10 of an inch? 103. So we're 100-plus days since we've seen a significant wetting rain. We have to go all the way back to March 30th when we saw that. This is the time of year, though, that we expected. It's our dry time of the year where water is at its highest demand. Heat is starting to build, but we're also in the midst of the monsoon season, and that has alleviated some of the dryness in the southeast corner of California. This is what it looked like back in June. You can see a significant amount of dryness here along the northwest coast, all the way through the Bay Area, parts of the central coast, and inland areas, certainly through the valley, and starting to kind of move its way up through the foothills. Also pretty dry in the desert southwest, but we have seen some wetting rain. So we're starting to see that pull back just a little bit with some moisture building along the eastern side of the state, at least in the southern part. Now, the northern part is starting to enter into a lot of dry territory, which is going to elevate the fire danger just inherently. We're just going to have to live with that day after day until we get more rain. Our significant fire potential, we don't really have big triggers going on right now. Lightning, fierce winds or anything like that. It's just the fact that we're really, really dry that keeps us in kind of that moderate dry range to low dry range through the valley and parts of the coastal range as well. Drought Monitor checking in on where we stand with this. We got a new update just a day ago, and it is starting to grow ever so slightly, mostly just the dryness and moderate drought, starting to see some little changes here, not significant changes. I always like this saying, we have drought every year, it's called summer. So we're going to see this start to expand until we get that wetting rain. Our reservoir supply levels, though, looking great. We're still coming off of a pretty decent water years and the third one in a row. So our reservoirs are holding at about 80 to 90% full, but above average for Trinity, Shasta, Oroville, and Folsom. New Melones, Don Pedro, San Luis, and Millerton still pretty close to average, if not slightly above it, but everything's starting to empty out. Now, I want to show you this because this is going to have not only implications for when you go out to the lake and things are going to maybe be just a little bit drier, but also what's happening downstream. So Folsom Lake, you can see, already passed its peak capacity here, and now we're starting to see that go down pretty much in a line of our average. So as we head towards September and even early October, those water levels will be going down for our lake. What that means for rivers is that we're seeing a lot of releases and the water temperature is remaining cold because the reservoirs will release that water and then it gets sent downstream into the tributaries, whether it be the Sacramento, the American, Tuolumne, and you can see what happens with the temperatures. The closer we are to a reservoir, the colder the temperatures are going to be for those rivers. So the American River below Folsom at 64 degrees, but you get near the Delta and it's up to 72, just having time to kind of heat that surface water, especially with some of our recent temperatures. Lake Tahoe water temperature 68 degrees, so that too is starting to come up ever so slightly. Even with that, water precautions always need to be top of mind. Near water, wear a life vest. Keep a close eye on children, avoid alcohol, and with those water temperatures in the 60s in some places, that can have an impact on our breathing. Strong currents equal tough rescues. With those releases happening, there'll also be some higher water levels and occasionally some stronger currents. Heat risk forecast, we maintain that moderate range. This is going to affect most people who are sensitive to the heat. And you saw that little pocket there right near the Delta with that onshore flow where it kind of gets knocked down more into the minor range. Elsewhere, though, we maintain that moderate risk all the way into our Monday forecast. So again, we're going to call for that heat advisory in place until Monday now for parts of the North Valley and then once we head south of Modesto. Let's get to the numbers here. Morning lows have been quite warm in the foothills. We've been running right about 70 to 75 degrees. That is not a lot of break for our bodies to recover from the heat of the day, with highs running in the 90s and 100s. Near 90 up top for the Sierra. Over towards the coast, that's certainly going to be the cooler spot to be, from Santa Cruz all the way through San Francisco, with morning lows in the 50s and highs in the 60s. Head inland again. Saturday is going to be a bit of a break in the heat for the Delta and places that have access to that Delta breeze, that being Davis, Sacramento, Elk Grove, even Galt and Lodi, where we'll see those highs in the 90s. But you get farther from that and we're deep into the 100s. Even on the east side of the valley for Roseville and Folsom, we're hitting highs in the 100s. El Dorado Hills at 100, Yuba City 103, Colusa 106, and Patterson at 103. I'll look at our regional 5-day forecast, and we continue to see the warmth stay in place through at least Monday, and then we start to bring down those temperatures. You notice it here, but you really will see it play out in our 10-day forecast. For the first 3 days of that forecast, we have our weather impact alert in place for Saturday, spare the air day for the Sacramento region. Not so much on the heat side for that weather impact alert day. It's more so because of air quality, smoke and ozone. Now, this is where you see the big relief happening. By Wednesday and Thursday of next week, we see highs back in the 80s, a little bit of warmth building into the next weekend, but highs still pretty close to average.